Hello there, I'm Sideshow, back with some more over.gg coverage of DreamHack Winter, and this time I'm with Zebbosai, the flex player from Misfits. And this is before you've played any of the games today, but you've got your group, you've been able to see the previous group who are currently playing. I think it's Unwanted playing against Penta at the moment, just to give you guys an idea of at what point this interview is taken in the course of the tournament. How are you doing? How are you feeling coming into this one?
I don't know, the meta doesn't suit us very well, so we're just gonna try to do our best and see where it gets us.
Okay, let's wind things back a bit before we go on to stuff, because I talked to you after the Overwatch Open. We did an interview with yourself and Soon, and we were talking about that. What has life been like after the Overwatch Open? So you've been playing in a lot of online tournaments. You didn't get invited to go over to Korea or China for those events. What has it been like for you guys to have come off such a big win and then not be able to compound on that?
We struggled in the MSI and DreamHack qualifier against NIP. We beat every other team, but we always lost versus NIP. We haven't beaten since LAN. But then obviously we had BlizzCon too, so 3 of us, like me, Kriv, Skip, were at BlizzCon. So we haven't actually played that much, like since the Overwatch Open. So yeah, I don't know. We just got back into the groove after BlizzCon, and then obviously the meta changed everything. So.
Before we go on to the meta change as well, just those online games against NIP, obviously from the outside, people are going to be asking what was different about it. What were you able to do at LAN that you weren't able to do online in those games afterwards?
I just think they hadn't played May Reaper. Like, they didn't have experience against that. So we just surprised them with it. Like, the games were super close when we played online, but we still like lost 3-4 in a row, I think. But it was 3-2, 3-1s, like close games. But they just have more experience versus the May, and especially Himsy plays it in a different way, because we try to abuse Himsy, like perhaps being too aggressive when we play at the LAN, we're like walling him off, but we can't really do that anymore. So.
With the meta change as well, people are saying the NIP are now even stronger than they were before. Do you think that tying it into the fact that neither of you actually went over to the Korean side as well, how would you link those two together? The Korean teams that are playing over there and yourselves and NIP, where do you think the level currently sits between those guys? Do you subscribe to the fact that they're roughly the same, or you got a little smirk on your face that says we're better? What's going on there for you?
In the previous meta, I'd put us top 3 in the world at least. I'd still put like NIP, I don't know, around there too. Probably, I said at BlizzCon to people that I think NIP is the best team in the world, because they're so hard to play against. And in this meta, I just think it's clear NIP is the best team in the world. And then for us, we've probably gone down the ranking a bit, because we need time to get used to triple tank. It's something we tried to play in the previous meta, but we couldn't play it then either. So now when we're forced to play it, it obviously isn't a very great situation for us. So.
How much of that has been integrating Skipjack back into the roster? Did that make any difference, the fact that you were playing with Rib at the Overwatch Open and then Skipjack's come back? I mean, for him, perhaps it feels like he missed out on the one opportunity where you guys actually were performing at a real world-class, unbeatable level.
Yeah, like, I don't know, at the beginning it was a bit hard with Skip, because Rib is a bit more aggressive. But we talked with Skip, he played more aggressive and like pretty much the same. So I don't think that's a factor, but I don't know, we communicate a lot better at LAN, like people talk more in general, so I think that's a key factor. In general, like, we're pretty clutch at LAN. So even though this meta is shit for us, like, I still think we can do pretty well, just because we're clutch, like, at a LAN event. So.
Okay. We've made a lot of references so far to like the current meta and the patch and things like that, so I want to hear your perspective of how you think that changed things in terms of like the in-game things that you're able to run or the styles that you're able to do, and how that affected your team in particular.
Well, you're not forced to play triple tank, but no one has figured out a comp that can counter it. Like, they nerfed the counters with both Reaper nano boost and May obviously getting ulti slower, because before you like rotated ults. So one fight you did nano Reaper, the next one you did May, you could kind of win it that way. But now when both those are nerfed, you're basically forced to play triple tank. You can play other comps, but you're always going to be at a disadvantage. But like, versus certain teams, you can still win, obviously, with, say, a dive comp or something like that.
Okay, and when you were at the Overwatch Open, you had obviously come into contact with the triple tank and had come up with, as you say, this May and Reaper composition that you were using to break it. Do you think that it's a case, perhaps during this tournament, I've seen people on like tweeting little bits of analysis thinking, I wonder if someone's actually going to come up with a reasonable counter to this, or whether everyone's just going to end up playing it. What are your thoughts on that?
we have an idea, like how we could counter it, but I don't know. Like we've tried it in PCWs, we've tried many different styles, but in general it just doesn't work because your gain the ult is too slow now. Like tanky characters with a lot of heal is just more powerful since you don't have the ults. Because whereas in the tank comp you basically have to like kill them in seconds. Like it has to go super fast or they just get healed up and they snowball from it. So it's just super hard to counter it currently, at least with Ana in the stages.
And in talking about the different styles, I think I would, although you had your most success when you were playing with this kind of Mei composition, I kind of think of you more as like a dive comp team. That's like the style that I think you fit most naturally. You have a lot of DPS players on your team, and they're skilled in a variety of roles as well. Since you've made the change as well, you're now on that kind of role rather than a Lucio as well. And in the Alienware monthly melee, we saw you running Sombra in like a triple engage kind of thing. Is that something that you're thinking of flirting with further, or was that something you tried and it didn't work out? What were your thoughts on integrating Sombra into it or playing that triple DPS strat?
It worked to some extent. Like on COT, for example, we were able to beat FaZe with it when they ran a Zen. Because like even Sombra can kill a Zen pretty fast, even though the bullets are bullshit. But like, I don't know. Sombra is an okay hero. The ulti is super strong, but apart from that, it doesn't do enough, I don't think. This was the day after the patch, so like we experimented a lot. Like we tried stuff out, and obviously we had just swapped roles, so we didn't practice before that either. So we just experimented, tried different comps. I'm not sure if we're gonna run Sombra now, but we definitely could.
Okay, so you're talking about swapping roles as well, so we'll address the elephant in the room, is the fact that you've made this big roster change a week before the LAN event, basically. Unless there was some cooking beforehand and you knew about it, but it seemed, at least from the outside, to be a pretty last-minute change coming into, you know, a fairly big event. This isn't the biggest one, but it's a reasonably large event that you'd like to take because it's a first LAN event after you've won your big title. So, can you tell me a little bit about why maybe if you don't want to go into why the change happened, then what has affected you like before and after, and why you felt it was necessary to switch the roles around as well, rather than just directly sub someone else in?
Well, when we started discussing it, we did look for flex players, but there wasn't anyone around we felt comfortable with, so we thought try to take a Lucio in, so we took Cooler. I know it's obviously harder with communication-wise, because like I used to call quite a bit, but I can't really call as much from Osaria or whatever I'm playing. Like, I don't know, I guess that affected us the most. But at LAN, at least now when we scrimmed and stuff, people have stepped up communication-wise, so I don't think that's going to be an issue when we actually play at the LAN, but online it's an issue for sure.
Okay, going slightly more into the calling structure of your team then, now that Cooler's come into it, I don't think that he was like a main calling Lucio on previous teams. I might be wrong there, but you certainly were. You were like calling the shots from where you were standing. So what is the calling structure like now in Misfits? Are you still trying to call things? Is it more separated? Is it something you're working through? What's going on there?
I think it's like, it's not as much one person, like it's me, Soon, Cooler together, I guess. Come up with calls and try to execute them. But it isn't as strict as before, where like we always waited till I said go. Like people still came with suggestions, let's push here and there. But then as we took an engagement, it was always me saying go and then we went. But now it can basically come from anyone. So if we see an opportunity, we take it. So sometimes it's actually better in that way too, because if Nevix sees an opportunity, he can knows he can kill a character. He just calls for it and we all go with it, you know. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We haven't played too much. Like as you said, we barely skimmed with this lineup though. But it's every event we've gone to, we've always swapped at least one guy. So we're used to this. Like and obviously at Overwatch Open, we didn't have much time with Rib and Hidan. That still went alright. So I'm sure we can do okay at this event.
Do you think that is something you can consistently repeat? The fact that like you're having changes in the lineup, or would you prefer to have the stability to be able to get into it? Like, from the outside, there must be a core at work there that is allowing other people to come in and still play the same system, right? And still perform really well within it. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on the stability of the roster, or its long-term success, or being able to replicate these results if you've got a volatile six-man roster?
But the thing is, previously was always like we always had the same five with Kryv, and then we just replaced the sixth guy. We did that at every event pretty much. Obviously Rib came in as a sub, but I don't know. We had sort of a structure how we did things when in the old meta I was Lucio, but now I know we're trying to figure out a new structure, I guess, so it's very different this time replacing than it has been previously, because we just kept on playing the same style before, but we now had to adapt, because we obviously have a new caller, or I don't know, Cooler is still like the main guy, I guess, because you have to be with Lucio. And then like I'm not Kryv on Zarya, so we have to adapt to that, and yeah, we'll have to see.
In terms of the style that you're now playing coming into this event, you say that you're trying to get into the triple tank thing. Do you subscribe to the same theory that a lot of these other teams are, where we're seeing pretty much the same lineup from almost everybody, where you've got your D.Va, your Soldier 76 as part of the triple tank?
It's not something I can comment on, like, I don't know when this is released, and yeah, you'll have to see on the stage.
Okay, okay. In terms of adapting to that, though, because I know that you're trying to go that way. At the very least, it's at least part of your repertoire, right? So that's not giving anything away. But I feel like that was quite a late change for the team. So how has that been adapting to like what is now the prevalent meta, but very quickly, compared to a team like NRP, who've basically been doing that the whole time?
That's the thing, like, I don't know, we try to counter triple tank and we then lose. So then we are like, okay, let's play triple tank, and we lose because we are just bad with it, and people get like upset because we know, like, if we play another comp, like say tier 2 teams, we can kind of run them over, but we know we can never play a comp like that and beat NIP, because like what we try to run with the tier 2 teams is like it gets countered by triple tank, but since we can execute it very well, we can still do it. But with NIP that has so much experience with triple tank, we know there's no way we can beat them with that. But I can't go too much into it. Yeah, you'll have to watch the games and see.
Okay, talking about the event and how the teams break down, we've talked about NIP quite a lot because you have quite a bit of history with them over the past online events. I mean, you two have been basically the only teams of note within Europe, like battling against each other. But now you've got Fnatic and Complexity in there as well, and the teams that have qualified. You've got Fnatic in your group along with LDLC and Mouse, which, I mean, you got two of the better teams from the BYOC qualifiers as well. I know that Swoosh yesterday said that he feels like he has a shot against your team, but not Fnatic. Well, he didn't say not Fnatic, but it was implicit, you know, he said you specifically. Do you feel like you're open to that at the moment? How do you see the BYOC teams? Do you think they're going to be a threat, or are you just going to roll over them like you were talking about?
No, they're a threat for sure. Like both Mouse and LDLC, we've dropped maps to in PCWs. When we played Fnatic, we lost most of the maps as well. Like going into this event online, it just didn't go very well for us because we tried to figure out triple tank. We just couldn't. I think we have figured it out a bit better now. And like yesterday we played Complexity and it went okay. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Okay, in terms of how you think the teams break down, if I was going to press you for predictions or something like that, or just your power rankings in terms of how you think the teams stack up. Obviously, some of them, Fnatic and Complexity in particular, haven't really played that much recently, but you've been boot camping against them and stuff like that. What's your feel of the competition coming into this?
I won't include my team then, but I'll go.
If you want.
No, I'm not. I'll go NIP, Fnatic, Complexity, Mouse, LDLC, and then I don't know Penta or Unwanted very well. I've never played either of them, so I don't know where they match up, but I think Penta beat them in the qualifier for this, so I guess Penta and then Unwanted.
So the other thing, the wider topic that I wanted to discuss with you as well, is the fact that you and NIP have been on your own in Europe at the moment, and with the other teams over in Korea, it's kind of like a precursor in some way of the Overwatch League, in that a lot of the action is going to be happening in a totally different continent, although of course it's going to be in North America rather than over in Asia. And we've already heard from Rogue and from Reunited that they have plans to move over to North America. What is your impression as a person who's been in a team that's kind of been left out of some of the big tournaments? Would you want to get involved in that? Is that something you've thought about? Or what's your feel of the fact that the Overwatch League is potentially going to leave smaller teams in other regions out of the equation in the short term?
I hope they definitely consider us. Like, we've been a top team forever, I feel like. And then, I don't know, it feels like you're kind of forced to move to NA now as an Overwatch team anyway. Even without Overwatch League, like most of the tournaments are in NA. And some of them, they don't even invite European teams. Like these two coming up now, the MLG one, and then there was another one announced the other day, also in NA for 100K. Like, and we can't even qualify for those. Like, there's no way. So in that regard, we're probably forced to move to NA, and with Overwatch League, we'd move to NA anyway. Like we've already discussed it, and that's what we'd do if we get a spot in the Overwatch League.
But at the moment, it's not something you're actively planning. You're just keeping a watchful eye on it more than anything.
Yeah. There's no plans regarding moving to NA right now. Like as far as I'm aware, both Rogue and Reunited are returning to Europe now, or they are in Europe. So we'll have more practice partners again. And Europe in general feels like a better region, at least to me. So as long as Rogue and Reunited and NIP, I guess, are committed to Europe, like it's better for us to stay here in regards to practice, even though we miss out on some tournaments.
Do you feel like it might create a bit of a vacuum of talent if all of the other teams are moving over to North America? Say all of you do move over to North America in the end of it, what's going to happen to the European scene from what you have seen from other teams coming up while you and NIP have been battling? Or is it just going to be a barren wasteland of wasted talent?
I was like, now that Rogue and Reunited went to Korea, like we basically didn't have anyone scrim. Like we could play NIP, and they only play triple tank comp, so that's the only thing we get to practice. And whenever we play another team, that's the only thing we think about. We want to learn how to counter the triple tank, but no one else run it. So it just felt like a waste playing another team, because we knew we could beat them. We just needed to practice beating NIP. While say Rogue or Reunited was here, we could play other teams because they play more standard comps, while NIP was so committed to triple tank. These days we get a lot of practice versus triple tank, obviously, since everyone runs it. But if team starts to move over from Europe, you're basically forced to move over, or you won't have practice. It's
Okay, you've got your games coming up. Who are you playing against first? What's kind of the order of events?
We play LDLC, and then depending on how it goes, I don't know. Like we play the winner of Fnatic Mouse or the loser of Fnatic Mouse, depending on how it goes in our game.
Okay. What are your realistic thoughts coming into this event? What are your aspirations for what you can achieve? Like, if you think about where you place yourself within the rankings and your path through it, what's the goal for your team, and what do you think would be a reasonable level to get to, and what you're going to be disappointed with if you end up getting there?
I'd be happy with top 3. I don't know, I'd be disappointed outside top 3. Like, beating an IP, it's definitely possible, especially on LAN, but it's very, very hard to do. So just getting top 3, if we could beat Fnatic, we should have an easier way, or we have to beat LDLC too, obviously, because they're good. Like, that's not an easy game for us. Like, beating LDLC and Fnatic, we should have an easier way to the final, because then we'd play like either Complexity, Penta, or Unwanted. As long as we dodge NIP in the semi, I think we should be able to get to the final, at least.
Okay, and just the last question here, on an unrelated topic to your team, but people, when they're talking about NIP, are going to be thinking, are they just an online team? Because they've had this ridiculous win streak online, and then when it was at the LAN, as you were saying, you guys stepped up and you were able to actually beat them. It was 3-1. It was quite a close game. It was really close, but you did end up beating them by, you know, the margin of 2 maps. So, do you think there's a truth to that that they weren't able to compete at LAN? Do you think that's something that's going to be replicated here, or is it just, you know, it was their first time, or what are your thoughts on NIP at LAN?
I don't think they're any worse at LAN at all. I think maybe perhaps like other teams steps up, but NIP doesn't get worse. Like if you look at the group stage at Overwatch Open, they still dominate that sort of, and then like they just played a comp against us they weren't familiar with, but didn't really know how to counter it. But even though like they didn't know how to deal with it, but it was still super close games. Like we got lucky at a few moments, so like, I don't look too much into that. Like people saying NIP is bad at LAN, like they're not. They're just as good on LAN.
All right, thank you very much for talking to me, Zebo, and good luck for your games as well.
Thanks.